Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something we've all dealt with at work, putting out the same fires over and over and over again. We're going to show you how to break that cycle by really focusing on the most critical first step of any project, defining the right problem to solve in the first place.
You know that feeling, right? That little bit of déjà vu at work, where you're fixing a glitch only to see it pop right back up again next week. It is so frustrating. And you know what it usually means? It means we're treating the symptoms, not the actual disease. We're just slapping a Band-Aid on it. But what if there was a better way?
So how do we actually build that foundation for real success? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to introduce a really powerful framework called DMAIC. Then, we're going to dive deep into that first crucial phase, define. We'll learn how to write sharp problem statements, figure out who our key stakeholders are, and even map out the whole process with a simple tool called SIPOC.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the DMAIC framework. The easiest way to think of it is like the scientific method, but for business. It's this structured, data-driven cycle that guides you from a messy, confusing problem to a streamlined, optimized process. It really takes the guesswork out of making things better.
DMAIC is an acronym, right? It stands for these 5 phases you see here: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Each step builds perfectly on the last one. But, and this is the key takeaway, everything, and I mean everything, hinges on getting that very first step, define, absolutely right. And that's going to be our entire focus today.
So why are we dedicating this whole explainer to just one phase? Simple, because the define phase is the bedrock of your entire project. It's the foundation of the house. If you get this part wrong, the whole thing is just going to come tumbling down later. But if you get it right, you've built a solid base for real, lasting success. This classic saying is pretty much the heart and soul of the define phase. You know, putting in the time and the energy to truly understand and spell out the problem with crystal clarity at the beginning, well, that's the single best way to prevent wasted time, money, and morale down the road.
Think of it like a row of dominoes. If that first domino, your problem definition, is cracked, or it's fuzzy, or it's just pointing in the wrong direction, it sets off a chain reaction of failure. Your measurements will be pointless, your analysis will be flawed, and any solutions you come up with won't even hit the mark. It all comes back to that first piece.
Okay, so if defining the problem is that important, how do we actually do it well? Well, our first tool in the toolbox is something called the problem statement. This is what helps us transform a vague complaint into a valuable, actionable guide for the entire team.
A great problem statement is like your project's North Star. It's specific, it's measurable, and it focuses on the what and the where of the issue. Notice it doesn't say anything about why it's happening or how to fix it. That all comes later. For now, we're just getting clear on the problem itself.
Let's look at a classic example. This is what we usually start with, right? A vague complaint. Our coffee shop's customer service is bad. Okay, what does bad even mean? Bad to who? How on earth are you supposed to measure bad? This is a total dead end. You can't build a project on this foundation.
Now, look at this transformation. This is where the magic happens. We go from that vague complaint to something incredibly concrete. Customer wait times during the 8 to 9 a.m. peak have increased by 2 minutes, leading to a 15% drop in repeat customer visits. Wow! All of a sudden, we have data. We have a specific time frame. We have a clear business impact. This is a problem we can actually sink our teeth into and solve.
Okay, so we've got our sharp, specific problem statement. The next logical question is, who does this actually affect? And that brings us to our second tool, identifying your stakeholders. These are all the people, all the groups who have a stake in the problem, and hopefully in the solution.
Now, the term stakeholder is pretty broad, and that's on purpose. Of course, it includes your customers, but it also includes your employees, the baristas in our coffee shop example, your managers, and even your suppliers. Basically, anyone who is touched by the process or its outcome is a stakeholder.
And this is why figuring out your stakeholders isn't just some box-ticking exercise. It's strategic. When you bring the right people into the loop from the very beginning, you can manage their expectations, you can gather critical insights you might have missed, and you can prevent major roadblocks down the line. It's all about building a team for success before you even really start.
All right, our final tool for today helps us understand the actual boundaries of our project. It's a high-level process map called a SIPOC diagram. Now, it sounds a little technical, I know, but trust me, it's a wonderfully simple way to get everybody on the same page.
So SIPOC stands for suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. By just filling out this simple table, the whole team can agree on where the process they're looking at starts and where it stops. It visually defines the scope of the project so you don't get lost in the weeds.
Let's apply this to our coffee shop. It's easy. Our suppliers? That's the coffee bean roaster, the dairy farm. What do they provide? The inputs, like beans and milk. The process is everything that happens in the shop. Taking the order, grinding beans, brewing coffee. The outputs? The finished coffee, the receipt. And finally, who are the customers? The commuters, the students. See? In one simple chart, we've mapped out the entire universe of our problem.
So, to wrap it all up, the define phase is truly your most critical investment. It might feel like you're not doing anything yet, but by crafting that clear problem statement, identifying your stakeholders, and mapping the process, you are sharpening the axe. All this initial work ensures that when you do start chopping, every single swing is effective, efficient, and aimed at the right tree.
So, I'll leave you with a question to chew on. What's that one persistent, nagging problem in your world that everyone thinks is unsolvable, but maybe, just maybe, it's just been poorly defined all along? Thanks for joining us.